because you are the head of innovation management in Philips. So what do you think is the innovation strategy in Philips?
What we do in Philips is we look at it from different angles. What we do, we look at application areas. We have clustered ourselves into personal health, connected care, precision diagnosis, and image-guided therapies. So 4 major themes that we as Philips are very important for us, where we think we can make a difference. And across those verticals, we have defined horizontal enablers, like, as I mentioned before, artificial intelligence, health economics, that you need to apply across the different verticals. And then within Philips, we look at which ones are the ones at the points between where those lines intersect, where the biggest opportunities are. And when we identify the biggest opportunity, we say, can we come up ourselves or with partnerships that we can do to solutions that we feel are impactful. And by doing this, we are basically reallocating our investments across these different vertical application areas and key enabling technologies so that we are thinking we have the biggest impact.
So how do you allocate the resources among these different technologies? For example, what are the criteria? Like the growth, market growth, the profit potential, the technology?
There are many parameters. You mentioned some, of course, which are financially driven. That's part of being a commercial company. You have to be able to thrive in order to invest. That is one topic. But we also have several non-financial parameters. We have, as a mission for Philips, to treat and improve the lives of 3 billion people by 2030. By doing this, how many people do we reach? How many people here? And that's sometimes you can have, for example, if you do at cath lab interventions, you have a major impact on a few lives because there are many cath lab interventions, but if you compare that, you can give access to people in rural areas to connected care, you can suddenly impact many more. So these are kind of other things is that we are very serious about sustainability within Philips. So we have committed ourselves to become a 100% energy neutral, carbon neutral company by 2020. And by 2025, we have a circular economy for all our major equipment. These are topics that also, even though they're non-financial, but we feel are so important for us as a company to contribute to society, but also to be able to survive in this world where resources are finite, that we are making those decisions not only on finance, but also on these kind of parameters.
But how do you balance, for example, technological innovation and business model innovation inside Philips?
Yes. You have to take the holistic picture. What problems can you solve with technology? What problems can you solve with business model? What problems can you solve maybe with a supplier model or maybe a service model? So there are many models that you can apply to certain problems. And by making that explicit when you evaluate project proposals, and you have people coming from different angles, so you have an expert in business model innovation, you have a technology expert, you have somebody who is a service expert, maybe somebody who is more of a life cycle management expert, and these people then basically put them together, and then they came up with, I think you should be doing this, and then the other guy says, or lady says, no, we can solve it here, and then you come up with sometimes creative ways you wouldn't have thought of if you have only 1 or 2 persons in the same room. So that's part of this, where I truly believe in this multifunctional people working together and trying to solve a problem from different angles and then find what is the optimum to solve this problem.
But is there any way for you to manage the conflict between multidisciplinary teams?
Yes. You force them into the same room as part of a process. You say, if you want to go from an exploratory stage to an advanced development stage, you have to go through this process of sitting. These people have to come up with a recommendation as a team. If the team doesn't say, this is the best thing we can come up with, there can be still somebody raising their arm and saying, I think it's the wrong decision, but this is the majority decision. But it's something that people in the end respect the overall decision coming from different angles. And what you usually see after a certain phase of storming, norming, people start to perform because they understand. Actually, this kind of problem, usually the business model is easier or faster than if I would get my 2 years of technology development, or the other way around, by the way, as well.
So is this multidisciplinary team temporary, or they collaborate for many projects?
It's temporary, but they might be part of the project team, but often you want to try to bring in somebody outside with an outside-in perspective, because your own baby is always the prettiest, obviously, so you need to have somebody who says, well, there's also a very nice one. No, usually these are not permanent teams, but often these teams meet again. So if you go from the first stage to the second stage and they see, oh, this baby has grown, it's very, it can walk around now. Do we think it's a top athlete or it's going to be a chess player? And how can we stimulate either? That is typically something that you do at those decision points in the life cycle.
Another question related to innovation is that people always talk about innovation culture. Mm-hmm. So if a firm does not exhibit an innovation culture, people inside they may be very capable, but they are not be able to innovate. Mm-hmm. So what do you think what do you think you are doing at Philips to cultivate such an innovation culture?
Well, it's too broad again, yeah. But I think you have to reward people who are willing to step outside of comfort zone and take risks. Calculated risks, not just crazy risks. And I see myself personally as an example, as somebody who started as a researcher, and I was able to get promoted and to be impactful and be successful, that people see this is something that the company rewards. And I think to reward people who are willing to do this, and also people who are willing to work together with other teams. I mentioned the teamwork aspect as something very important, but to be really open and understand that sometimes competition is a very healthy thing, and sometimes competition can make you better. And I think people who are able to interact together with their own teams and other teams in a constructive way will become increasingly a measure of success. And within Philips, we are trying to facilitate that kind of behavior of people saying, yes, you are competing with them, but it's a friendly competition. And in the end, may the better win, and both parties should say, I helped, the second one should say, I helped the other one to be so good as they are, because without me they would have been not as good.
Okay, so you need collaboration, but still you want them to experiment.
Absolutely. Absolute experimentation is you don't know the outcome, you need to play a little bit, but you also need to be very rigid to say, does this play work, or am I just playing and I'm staying at the same, it's a nice game, but I'm staying at the same place. Does this play help me to go further? And if there's no progress, you have to be you yourself have to be saying, in the culture of innovation, this doesn't work, let's try something completely different.
So also about innovation, so where can you create barriers to imitation? Mm-hmm. Because if it's a very commercially successful innovation, others will copy it. So mm-hmm. what's your secret? What's your trick to deal with imitation?
But first of all, imitation is one of the forms of flattery, of course. No? You have to be successful that people want you to imitate, so that is actually compliment in that aspect. No, but seriously, of course, imitation and copying is an issue. No? The very basic answer to that, you have patents, you have trade secrets that make it more difficult for others to imitate it. But I think I want to take it to the next level. To solve these complex problems, you often do need these different angles and different perspectives, where you need multi-stakeholder engagement to come up with creative solutions. Sometimes it's not so obvious how the optimum has come about. So if those people don't have the secret sauce, because they don't know how this really works, it's difficult for them to imitate, because they only see what is visible on the surface. There might be things happening under the surface that make this successful that they don't see. But I want to actually turn this question around, because often complexity of problems in healthcare prevent good ideas and good proposals to fail, because the threshold for people to contribute is so high that the good ideas fail. So why don't we, and that is a personal belief of mine, don't we make it more of a platform approach where you invite people to come on the table together, utilizing common platforms in technology and also in commercialization, that threshold for people who might want to imitate, but actually it's difficult for them, they become part of the solution because they can contribute. So actually you make it easier for them to become part of the success, instead of trying, they have to solve everything yourself, and then you can be successful yourself.
Okay, so in terms of the platform kind of solution to deal with imitation, so what kind of incentive do you put in place to encourage third-party players to join the platform, to contribute to a solution?
Well, of course, you can have ease of commercialization, that this platform gives you also like an app store, a platform to be visible to a large customer base, potential customer base, but also that the platform is recognized by your customers as a trustworthy platform. If there's a startup having a good idea, this might be a good idea, but the hospital will look at it and say, well, is the startup going to be successful in 5 years from now? I don't know. Do I want to would I put my eggs into this basket? Or do I say, I see that this startup, a good idea, and it's working on a kind of acknowledged and recognized platform, so they don't have to worry about this plumbing, this stuff that will be there also 5 years from now. So I put my trust much easier into the startup because of the platform approach than as if the startup would be there alone.